Welcome back to my views and news. Some news story for you. First of all, from next week, Tigray is going to start handing over group weapons. What are group weapons? Hasn't Tigray already surrendered its heavy weapons to Ethiopian National Defense Force? Secondly, I raised the issue of the presence of Tigray fighters on Sudanese soil in a video around 48 hours ago. And yesterday, this issue was addressed by Tishome Toga, National Reform Commission chief, who has held a meeting with Geta Achoreda, Tigray interim president. Thirdly, another journalist has been arrested in Ethiopia. A long list of journalists is now being seen. Especially this month, 9 have been arrested so far. And lastly, Ethiopian army a few hours ago announced the full dismantlement of all regional special forces. What does it mean? Does it mean that ENDF refused, Ethiopian government refused to submit to the demands of some groups in the Amhara region? Firstly, viewers, Tigray has surrendered heavy weapons. It happened weeks ago. We saw artillery pieces, MLRS, armored personnel carriers, tanks, etc. in the presence of African Union officials and African Union team members. We saw that Tigray handed over heavy weapons to Ethiopian National Defense Force, and this transfer of weapons took place in Agula, and these weapons were then transferred to Afar and Oromia. Reportedly, I shared some pictures and videos when some long-range rockets were seen being taken to a wash, reportedly from Tigray. Tishome Toga is Ethiopian National Reform Commission chief. His task is to monitor the reintegration of Tigray fighters. He is monitoring this disarmament. After disarmament, demobilization and reintegration will start. Tishome Toga's work can only start after Tigray, after other armed fighters have surrendered their weapons. Tishome Toga held a meeting with Geta Achoreda, Tigray interim president, around 48 hours ago. He was accompanied by 2 of his deputies. And after that, Tishome Toga announced that from next week, Tigray fighters will start surrendering group weapons or team equipment. What are group weapons? From the 23rd of April, this process will start. These group weapons will be handed over to Ethiopian National Defense Force. I think group weapons mean small arms like machine guns, rifles, rocket launchers. That is how I understand group weapons, because heavy weapons have already been surrendered by Tigray forces. I think Pretoria deal states that small arms will be handed over to Tigray regional authorities, if I am not wrong. But here, Tishome Toga says that group weapons will be handed over to Ethiopian National Defense Force from the 23rd of April, and this process will be completed within 7 to 8 days. Let's see. Secondly, he spoke about the presence of Tigray fighters on Sudanese soil. I raised the issue around 48 hours ago, and Tishome Toga addressed this issue in his talk with some news outlets. He confirmed the presence of Tigray fighters on Sudanese soil indirectly, and he said that Demobilization of Tigray fighters in Sudan will start soon. It means he is confirming, which we have been reporting for months, since the start of third round of war. Even before that I reported, before August I reported the mobilization, the organization of Tigray fighters on Sudanese soil. So he confirmed that Tigray fighters are there in Sudan, but demobilization will start soon. Thirdly, another journalist has been arrested in Ethiopia. She worked for Amhara media. Sinait Ayalo is her name. She is now in detention. I think she's 8th or 9th journalist who has been arrested this month. Yesterday, Human Rights Commission of Ethiopia, led by Daniel Bakele, asked government to release all media professional journalists who have been arrested because Daniel Bakele said it was violation of media law. Pre-trial detentions of journalists were illegal. At the same time, he urged journalists to be responsible in their reporting. But so far, government has not released any journalists arrested this month. 9 arrested this month. It means this crackdown on journalists is going to intensify this week because this month we saw protests in Amhara region. And during the protests, after the protests, several were arrested who were supporting the protests, who were backing the demonstrations. Ethiopian prosecutors are now charging these journalists with inciting rebellion, inciting violence, inciting conflicts in the country. Lastly, viewers, a few hours ago, Ethiopian army announced formal dismantle of all regional special forces. Birhanu Jula reviewed the process which started around 2 weeks ago when Ethiopian government announced dismantlement of all regional special forces. We saw stiff resistance to this move in the Amhara region, where Amhara special force members left camps. They refused to be disarmed. And then we saw some statements from some political parties opposing dismantlement of special forces. Nama issued a statement opposing the dismantlement of special forces. I think Balderas opposed the dismantlement too. Izima supported the dismantlement, but Izima said that this dismantlement should be carried out responsibly through mediation, through a dialogue. So, and Nama had asked Ethiopian government, Ethiopian PM, to revoke the decision of dismantlement of special forces. But yesterday's announcement by Ethiopian army indicates that Ethiopian army, Ethiopian federal government, they have refused to give in to the demands of those who have been protesting in the Amhara region, who are vowing to continue their protests, and some sources claim the protests could resume after Eid and Easter celebrations. But the ENDF said a few hours ago that from Saturday, from the 15th of April, all regional special forces had ceased to exist. ENDF says that there would be only Ethiopian National Defense Force, Federal Police and Regional Police. Regional regular police, anti-riot police. There won't be any other security institution, any other force in Ethiopia from Saturday 15th of April. And those who have been, those who were members of regional special forces, now they'll be trained, they'll be deployed to their new positions. Of course, they'll have to undergo some trainings. And this process of trainings, this process of reintegration will start in coming days. I think those special force members who are handing over their weapons, they're being told to report in June for training. It means that thousands of special force members will receive training. Will they become part of will they become part of regional police or Ethiopian National Defense Force? That we'll see in coming days. So far, Ethiopian government, Ethiopian army, they have refused to give in to the demands of some groups in Amhara region. They say that this decision will strengthen Ethiopian army. Who will pay the salaries of these Ethiopian army members? If these regional special force members join Ethiopian army, who will pay them? Because of course, thousands will join ENDF, thousands of these special force members. Can Ethiopia sustain the establishment of a large military in terms of economic crisis which the country is facing? Or will the regions have to contribute as well? Regions might have to pay the salaries of those ENDF units which are going to be deployed to regions. Of course, regions will have, regions do have ENDF's basis. That will be clear in coming days. So far, no regional special forces in Ethiopia exist now, according to Ethiopian National Defense Force announcement a few hours ago. Thank you for watching.